ArcGIS Server also is improving. We've gotten to know ArcGIS Server as the workhorse of our enterprise environment. Actually, what we've done at 10.1 is actually quite extraordinary. Jack talked about some of these things: improved performance, easier installation and administration, easier to create services. Something interesting that you've been asking for a long time: native 64-bit and also stronger Linux support. So actually, I think I've almost said enough, but it's also important to note that there's better standard support, both for GIS standards like OGC, web standards, and other IT standards, improved APIs, and so much more. Ismael Chivite, our good friend and colleague, he's here in his homeland today, and he's going to tell us about his favorite new improvements in ArcGIS Server. Ismael.
Thank you, Dean. ArcGIS Server is a central and key component of the ArcGIS system. It allows you to take your maps, your geodatabases, and even your analytical tools and create web services out of them. And the nice thing about that is that web services can be accessed from web browsers, mobile devices, and desktops. In other words, you are making full GIS capabilities available to everyone. The 10.1 release is bringing a lot of news. It's making a better GIS server. It's faster, it's more IT-friendly, and it has a lot of new functionality. It's faster because it runs as a 64-bit native application, and also because we added lots of different code optimizations. In this simple application, I'm making use of the service area tool. It tells you how far you can go from a given location if you drive your car for a few minutes. This operation used to take a few seconds, but now in 10.1, it's fast enough that I can perform on-the-fly analysis as I move the mouse in the display. This gives me sub-second response for this operation in a network dataset that has over 300 million street segments. And not only we are doing the service area analysis, we are also taking advantage of an 8 million US census block dataset, which allows me to find out who lives within this area that I derived. 10.1 brings a new architecture to ArcGIS Server, one that it is much simpler and much more robust. We say that at 10.1, ArcGIS Server becomes a pure GIS web services server. This means that not only you can access the GIS capabilities following a REST and SOAP specification, you can also administer the server through HTTP calls. ArcGIS Server with this new architecture is much easier to install, to configure, and to administer. We worked a lot on making sure that you can take advantage of the standard databases. In 10.1, we have enhanced database integration. In fact, we have added support for a new database. You were asking us to do that. It's called Netitsa. And we have also added tools so you can not only read, but also write the information in these databases, whether it's a geodatabase-enabled database or not. From a functional aspect, there are many exciting new features that we have added, all of them based on your feedback. So I will run through just a handful of them. ArcGIS 10.1 incorporates about 80 new geoprocessing tools, and they offer you tremendous analytical capabilities, and those can be exploited in a server environment. This is one of them, which allows me to click on the river network and do a trace upstream. The great thing about these tools is that they ship out of the box. That means that you don't need to write a single line of code to take advantage of them. That leads to my second demo, where I will go with you through the process of creating a fully functional web application that takes advantage of this type of capabilities. This is called the ArcGIS Viewer. It builds web applications. And basically, you are going to do three things: define the content, the map that you want to display, the tools that it contains, and the look and feel of the application. Let's just start with the map. First of all, I'm going to center the map in a location and select a base map that I want to use. After this, I'm going to add an operational layer on top. For that, I will simply browse to my GIS server and bring the data that I want to display on top. This is the water utility network in this case. Let's go with tools. There are many available out of the box. Tools to do editing, filtering, printing. In my case, I'm going to add a geoprocessing tool. Following this wizard, we can basically connect again to the server, in this case, showing the different geoprocessing services that have been published, and select the one I want to run. This particular tool has one parameter, which is an input point. This point defines an area in the network where a leak has been detected. And I will use a red pushpin to represent this location. The tool also gives me two outputs. The customers that are going to be affected by this leak, which I will represent with a simple green dot, and also the valves that I need to close in order to isolate the leak. Let's add a red flag here. Okay, that's it. That's how easily you can configure your geoprocessing services, and now the tool will display here. Let's work on the look and feel. Of course, you can change the logo and the title. And one interesting thing is that there are different layout templates. They define the color scheme to be used and the arrangement of the different tools in the application. I particularly like this one, so I'm going to click OK. This will apply the style to my application, and now I can click on Deploy, and this will create the application. Once I click OK, really, anyone that has a browser can access this application and use it. Let's have a look at the app. Here we have the base map, the operational layer. Here's the geoprocessing tool that I will execute. So here is the leak, and I will execute it. It's taking advantage, again, of these new geoprocessing tools that have been added to ArcGIS and that you can deploy in ArcGIS Server. So now you can see the customers. I'm going to open the table, so you can see the different customers that will be affected, the valves that you need to close, and so on. You get the point? You like this? Yes? But there is much more. Sometimes geography is not the best way to represent some data. In this geometric network, for example, I have some elements like these stations that have an internal plant. And there are so many tubes and pipes that it's hard to represent them geographically. It's best to use a schema, a schematic view of your network. This functionality has been in ArcGIS for quite a while, but it never was so easy to use in a server environment. You can use a web browser or even a mobile device to have a look at these schemas, navigate them, identify information, and relate them to the geography as well. Schematics becomes an out-of-the-box capability of map services in 10.1. In this map, you are looking at the state of the traffic. Red means lots of traffic, slow traffic, and green means, well, it's going very well. The interesting thing is that now you can use this information to enhance routing in your applications. This is the route. It takes about 11 minutes to go from the convention center to this medical center, but that's if you do the route at, say, 10 a.m. in the morning. But if I change my clock, the route is going to be different because the traffic will be different. We can either use real-time traffic or historical traffic. And as you all know, this type of information, like live traffic and historical traffic, is available in all Europe through some of our data vendors like Navtec. This one will be popular because it ranks #1 in ideas.arcgis.com. We really appreciate when you submit your feedback to us because we take note of that. One of these enhancements that you have been asking for is the ability to create high-quality maps from a web browser using out-of-the-box capabilities. In this case, you are looking at a base map from ArcGIS Online. I also added a dynamic service which represents the state of a wildfire. I draw a polygon which represents the area where my crew is going to be working. And because this area doesn't have cell coverage, I'm going to temporarily add a communication tower to this location. So with this, my crew knows where they are out of bounds and also where they are supposed to have communications. With all this information, I'm going to basically create a PDF map. I'm going to give a name to my map. I will select a template, and those templates are created with ArcGIS Desktop, and then I can even force the scale, the exact scale at which this map will print on paper. When I click Save Map, I simply call a geoprocessing model which takes all the contents of your web application and applies an ArcMap layout template that you configured in advance. You can see the title, the grid, the results of the geoprocessing model, the exact scale, the dynamic legend, and so on. I think the 10.1 release is actually a huge release for Server. It incorporates many new capabilities that hopefully are of your liking. And I invite you to visit also the technical workshop where we will go into more details with them. Thank you very much.